May 1944. A cold mist rolls across the fields of Kent, England. The smell of damp earth mixes with the faint odor of rubber and gasoline. At first glance, the landscape seems peaceful rows of hedges, the distant hum of trucks, the rhythmic hammering of tent stakes. But look closer, and you'll notice something strange. An entire army seems to have materialized overnight. Columns of Sherman tanks glint in the morning light. Truck convoys stretch across the horizon. Antennas rise from command vehicles. Soldiers in U.S. uniforms smoke and laugh near a field kitchen. Only, none of it is real. The tanks are made of canvas and air. The trucks are wooden shells. The soldiers? Just a handful of technicians, artists, and radio operators, scattered across a dozen empty fields, performing the greatest deception of the Second World War. This was the 1st U.S. Army Group, or FUSAG, a ghost army, a masterpiece of illusion designed to fool Adolf Hitler himself. And at the center of it all was the most feared general in the Allied ranks, George S. Patton. To Hitler, Patton was everything the Allies could offer. Ruthless, brilliant, unpredictable. If an invasion was coming, he believed, it would come under Patton's command. And so, British intelligence decided to weaponize that belief. Operation Fortitude wasn't just a plan. It was a story, a meticulously crafted performance designed to deceive the most paranoid man on Earth. Every prop, every radio signal, every rumor, every whisper from a double agent had to fit that story perfectly. Because one mistake, one careless oversight, and the entire D-Day invasion could fail before it began. In the early dawn light, a team from the Royal Engineers inflate a row of Sherman tanks. The air pumps hiss, canvas bulges, and creaks. From a distance, the illusion is perfect. Nearby, Corporal Peter Williams checks a clipboard covered in sketches, tank outlines, shadow angles, reflections. They're learning how to make fake tanks look real to Luftwaffe reconnaissance cameras. They adjust the spacing, scuff the ground to simulate tire marks, and even paint false oil stains beneath the tanks. A few miles away, a radio operator sits in a tent filled with static. He's tapping out encrypted messages on a Morse key: fake orders, fake coordinates, fake complaints about non-existent fuel shortages. Each transmission is carefully timed to match the patterns of a real U.S. armored division. Above him, the night sky flickers as German reconnaissance planes pass overhead. The operators freeze, holding their breath. If the Germans take the bait, if they believe this phantom army is real, then every man on the beaches of Normandy will have a better chance of surviving. But if they don't, then all of this, all the lies, all the theater, all the ghosts, will have been for nothing. In London, behind a locked door at 20 Cavendish Square, a small team of intelligence officers hunch over maps dotted with red and blue pins. This is the headquarters of the London Controlling Section, the nerve center of Allied deception. At the head of the table sits Colonel John Bevan. He's not a soldier in the traditional sense. He's a playwright, a manipulator of narratives. His task: to convince the German High Command that the Allies will land at Pas de Calais, the shortest crossing from Britain to France, not at Normandy. It's a lie so bold, it borders on the impossible. But Bevan and his team know something about lies. If you want someone to believe a falsehood, don't just tell them what's untrue. Give them a reason to believe it. They know Hitler's mind. They know his obsession with Calais, its proximity to Britain, its direct route to Germany, its heavy fortifications. If they can reinforce that obsession, if they can make him certain that Calais is the target, then even after the Normandy landings begin, he'll hesitate to move his Panzer divisions. Time, That's what this fake army is buying time for the real invasion to succeed. And so, Operation Fortitude is divided into two parts. Fortitude North, aimed at deceiving the Germans into expecting an invasion of Norway, and Fortitude South, the grand performance unfolding now across the fields of Kent and Sussex. Every detail matters. Every photograph taken by German reconnaissance must show convincing signs of military buildup. Every intercepted message must feel authentic. Even the gossip circulating in neutral countries like Sweden and Switzerland must point to Patton preparing for Calais. To pull it off, the British enlist artists, actors, stage designers, radio specialists, and intelligence officers. Together, they will orchestrate the most elaborate stage play in history. Outside, as night falls, the canvas tanks glow softly in the moonlight. From above, they look real solid, threatening, ready. In the silence of the English countryside, you can almost imagine them breathing. And somewhere across the channel, in a darkened room in the Wolf's Lair, Adolf Hitler leans over a map of Europe. His finger traces the narrowest stretch between Dover and Calais. He smiles. Yes, that must be where they'll come. The stage is set. The ghosts are in position. And the fate of D-Day now depends on whether a lie can hold back an empire. London, March 1944. Rain streaks down the fogged windows of a nondescript townhouse at 58th Street, James's Street. Inside, cigarette smoke coils around a table cluttered with dossiers, coded reports, and cold tea. A portrait of King George VI watches silently from the wall. This is where the lie is refined. The home of Britain's 20 Committee, the XX Committee, responsible for the most dangerous and delicate weapon in the Allied arsenal. Double agents. Men and women who had once spied for Germany, now turned, broken, or bribed, are feeding Hitler's war machine with carefully crafted fictions. Their task, to make the phantom army of General Patton look as alive and deadly as any force ever assembled. At the head of the table sits John Cecil Masterman, the Oxford scholar turned spy master. He taps ash into a chipped saucer, reading a report written in invisible ink. Across from him, a young officer reads aloud a decrypted German transmission from the Abwehr, the Nazi intelligence service. It's working, Berlin believes. One of their most prized agents, Juan Pujol Garcia, codenamed Garbo, has earned the absolute trust of German intelligence. To them, he's a loyal Nazi informant with a vast network of sub-agents across Britain. In reality, every message he sends, every update he delivers, is written under British supervision fiction, disguised as fact. Garbo's latest report paints a vivid picture. General Patton has been placed in charge of a massive invasion force assembling in southeastern England. Tens of thousands of men, hundreds of tanks, mountains of supplies, all poised to strike across the Channel straight at Calais. Berlin eats it up. At the Abwehr's Paris office, officers hunch over Garbo's transmissions with awe. His intelligence aligns perfectly with what Luftwaffe reconnaissance is seeing. Rows of tanks, bustling camps, convoys of vehicles, all fabricated props of Operation Fortitude. In truth, Garbo never leaves London. His sub-agents are imaginary. His network exists only in ink and radio waves. And yet, the illusion he weaves will help decide the outcome of the greatest invasion in history. Elsewhere in the English countryside, Ashford, Kent, rain patters softly on the tarpaulin of an army tent. Inside, a man adjusts his headphones, scribbling rapidly on a notepad. This is Lieutenant Cliff Smith, a signal operator of the Royal Corps of Signals, part of the team tasked with generating the fake radio traffic of Patton's Phantom Army. Each night, they invent new operations, new complaints, new coordinates, an invisible chorus of voices buzzing across the ether. They even mimic the habits of real U.S. divisions. How long their transmissions last, when they switch frequencies, what slang they use. It's theater, scripted and static. But to German codebreakers, listening from miles away, It sounds unmistakably real. Repeat last message. Over. Convoy Bravo halted near Maidstone, awaiting fuel. General Patton requests updated weather reports for Calais region. The words ripple through the air. Caught by German listening stations along the French coast. Every falsified signal adds another brushstroke to the illusion. Meanwhile, deep in the corridors of MI5, a quiet, bespectacled man named Thomas Argyle Robertson, known simply as Tar, cross-checks each deception against real troop movements. He knows that the closer the invasion gets, the more dangerous these lies become. If even one fake signal overlaps with genuine operations, the entire deception could unravel, and thousands of lives could be lost on the beaches of Normandy. That night, as the clock ticks toward midnight, Garbo transmits again. His coded message to the Germans is long and filled with false detail. The weight of supply ships, the names of supposed units, the movement of fictional regiments. He ends it with a chilling flourish. My superiors believe the coming assault will begin shortly. Calais remains the primary objective. Normandy is but a diversion. When the message reaches Berlin, it lands like gospel. Abwehr analysts nod. The Führer himself is briefed the next morning, and Hitler, ever the strategist of illusion, grins. The enemy, he thinks, is predictable. They'll go for Calais, the shortest route, the most logical target. He orders his generals to hold their reserves near Calais. Even if the Allies attack elsewhere, he insists, it will be a trick, a feint, before the real blow falls. In a dimly lit room at Bletchley Park, British codebreakers intercept the German response. A young woman named Joan Clark, pencil tapping against her teeth, reads the decrypted line aloud. The Führer is convinced Calais remains the primary invasion point. Silence. Then quiet applause ripples through the hut. The lie has taken root. Across the channel, German gunners tighten their patrols around Calais. They reinforce bunkers, reposition tanks, stockpile ammunition, all while the beaches of Normandy remain suspiciously quiet. No one realizes that the calm before the storm isn't hesitation. It's design, because beneath the illusion, the real invasion force is already gathering, hidden, silent, unstoppable. The Ghost Army has done its job. Now, history's greatest gamble is about to begin. June 1944, southeast England. A fog hangs low over the countryside, heavy and unmoving. Beneath it, the ghosts are at work. At dawn, a convoy of trucks creeps through narrow hedgerow lanes, engines muffled beneath tarps. The men riding in them wear no insignia. They carry no weapons. Instead, they unload strange cargo: rubber tanks, collapsible jeeps, fake artillery pieces made from canvas and plywood. The men belong to the 23rd Headquarters Special Troops, better known as the Ghost Army. Artists, sound engineers, radio specialists, set designers, men who once painted billboards or built stage props now serve under military secrecy, creating illusions to deceive the most ruthless enemy in history. Their commander, Colonel Harry L. Reeder, studies the morning mist from a muddy ridge. They'll be watching from the air today, he says quietly. Let's give them a show. Within hours, the fields come alive with activity. Tents bloom across the hillsides. Trucks line up in perfect formation. Soldiers march in the open, deliberately exposed. From above, it looks like the full weight of Patton's army preparing to invade Europe. But walk among the vehicles, and you hear the hiss of air pumps inflating tank hulls, the rhythmic tapping of hammers securing wooden decoys, the laughter of a soldier named Private David Robbins, who scrawls Hitler's nightmare in chalk across a rubber tank turret. Every illusion has to be perfect. When German reconnaissance planes pass overhead, the men freeze in place. They've learned how to move like real soldiers, how to smoke in groups, how to leave the right number of boot prints in the mud. Later that day, another unit, the 3132 Signal Company, sets up mobile speakers hidden in the hedgerows. Massive amplifiers connected to turntables hum to life. From the speakers comes the sound of tanks grinding through mud, trucks revving, officers shouting commands. It echoes across the valley, bouncing off trees and barns. To any German listening post or local informant, it's unmistakable. An entire army on the move. That night, a team of radio operators begin transmitting new fake orders. Unit A moving to Folkestone. Request additional landing craft for Dover sector. Patton will inspect the troops at sunrise. The chatter fills the airwaves, believable, disciplined, relentless. In truth, Patton himself is nowhere near these fields. After being relieved of command in Sicily for slapping a soldier, he's been sidelined by the Allies. But now, British intelligence sees his notoriety as a gift. They turn his legend into bait. The Germans have always feared Patton. They call him der verrückte Amerikaner, the mad American, the perfect decoy general for a phantom invasion. In Kent, a rumor quietly spreads among local villagers. General Patton is seen inspecting his troops near Canterbury. They see convoys with American markings, hear accents from New Jersey and Texas, and watch as new camps appear overnight. None of it is coincidence. MI5 carefully plants these rumors, knowing they'll drift across the channel through fishermen, neutral diplomats, or intercepted mail. By June 2nd, Luftwaffe reconnaissance photographs show what appears to be an enormous buildup across the southeastern coast of England. Thousands of vehicles, tents, landing craft lined up along the beaches. Hitler's analysts mark it all down. The map of Europe on his wall fills with red circles around the Pas de Calais. Meanwhile, 120 miles away in Portsmouth, the real invasion force, hundreds of thousands of men bound for Normandy, is moving under cover of darkness. Their vehicles are hidden beneath camouflage netting. No radio signals are allowed. No one speaks of departure. The contrast is deliberate. Fortitude South isn't just about showing the enemy something. It's about showing them the wrong thing. By June 3rd, German High Command sends a message to its coastal divisions. Expect main Allied landings near Calais. Normandy only a diversion. The deception has reached its climax. That evening, Corporal Williams and his radio crew receive new orders from London. Maintain transmissions non-stop through June 6th. No matter what happens, even if they hear explosions across the channel, even if they learn the truth, the illusion must continue. As the sun sets, a low hum rolls across the countryside. Dozens of fake tanks gleam silver in the twilight. Searchlights sweep the sky for German planes that may be watching. The men of the Ghost Army stand silently beside their creations, staring eastward. They don't know the names of the beaches their brothers will land on. They don't know which units are real and which are fake anymore. All they know is this: somewhere out there, men will die tomorrow because of the lie they've told. And if that lie holds just a little longer, fewer will die than might have otherwise. The pumps hiss again. Canvas tightens. The ghosts breathe. June 5th, 1944. 2,300 hours. Portsmouth Harbor, England. The wind howls in from the channel, carrying with it the taste of salt and the distant rumble of thunder. Hundreds of ships creak against their moorings, their decks glistening under sheets of rain. Men huddle beneath tarpaulins, clutching their rifles, staring into the darkness ahead, the place where Europe waits. Across the water in France, German sentries peer into the same night, unaware that the next sunrise will change history. But while the real invasion fleet waits for the weather to break, the phantom army of Operation Fortitude is fully awake. In Kent and Sussex, hundreds of fake vehicles gleam wet beneath the moonlight. From the air, the sight is electric convoys stretched across fields, landing craft parked along the coast. Trucks, churning up mud roads toward Dover. None of it moves. None of it breathes. But to German reconnaissance cameras, it looks alive. Inside a dimly lit tent, a radio operator named Private Charles Chuck Leventhal wipes the sweat from his brow and adjusts his dials. His orders are clear. Keep the airwaves busy. Static hisses through the speakers as he sends message after message into the void. Fusag Division, 12 requesting transport allocation. General Patton reviewing operations near Dover sector. Landing rehearsals scheduled for June 7th. Every word, every fake order is meant for German ears. At 0200 hours, Luftwaffe reconnaissance flights buzz high above the English coast. Their cameras capture the outline of what appears to be a massive force preparing to move. Back in occupied France, analysts pore over the photographs by lamplight. They confirm what they already believe. The Allies are massing for a blow at Calais, and Hitler's conviction hardens. In his headquarters, he circles Calais again and again on the map with his pencil. Here, he mutters. Always here. He refuses to redeploy his armored divisions south toward Normandy. If they land elsewhere, it will be a trick, he insists. Calais is the key. The irony is breathtaking. For once, Hitler is right about the Allies using deception, but wrong about where. Back in England. 0400 hours. The weather begins to break. The storm that had delayed the invasion eases slightly. In the operations room aboard HMS Bulolo, Allied commanders make the call. Day will commence at dawn. While the invasion fleet moves into the Channel, the men of Fortitude South are given new, chilling orders. Continue transmissions. Continue light discipline. Maintain the illusion at all costs. That night, the actors of war play their parts with grim precision. In a barn outside Canterbury, sound engineers spin new recordings. Trucks idling, men shouting, metal clanking, even the low drone of engines that seem to roll endlessly toward the coast. Giant speakers blast the noise into the foggy night, echoing off the fields. From a distance, it sounds like a military machine gearing up for war. Nearby, soldiers set campfires in carefully chosen places so that aerial photographs will capture glowing clusters of light, the telltale signs of bivouacked troops. In truth, there are fewer than 500 men spread across dozens of miles, orchestrating a performance so convincing that even Allied airmen, flying overhead, mistake it for a real army. But beneath the surface, tension gnaws at everyone. Private Robbins sits on a wooden crate, staring into the flickering firelight. "Do you think the Krauts will buy it?" he asks. Sergeant Haskins doesn't look up from cleaning his glasses. "They'd better," he mutters, "because right now our boys are already halfway across that damn channel." Silence. Only the wind and the faint thud of waves against the cliffs. Far to the south, the Armada moves silently through black water. Thousands of ships, destroyers, landing craft, transports crawl toward the coast of Normandy under cover of darkness. The men aboard whisper prayers, clutch photographs, and wait for dawn. At 0530 hours, June 6th, 1944, the first Allied landing craft grind against the sand. Operation Overlord has begun, but even as the beaches erupt with gunfire and chaos, Operation Fortitude continues to hum in the background, a ghostly symphony of lies that won't stop playing. Throughout the morning, Garbo, the double agent in London, sends an urgent message to his German handlers. Invasion underway, but not the main one. Expect major landings in Calais within 48 hours. He's deliberately slow in sending it, ensuring that by the time it reaches Berlin, it will be too late to react. When the report finally arrives, German high command is paralyzed by uncertainty. The fighting in Normandy is dismissed as a diversion. Field Marshal von Rundstedt orders his Panzer divisions to hold position near Calais. For 2 crucial days, Hitler refuses to release them. 2 days an eternity for the men fighting through the blood and sand of Omaha, Utah, Juneau, Sword, and Gold. As thousands die on the beaches, the fake army across the channel continues to breathe life into the illusion. Radio chatter remains steady. Convoys of dummy trucks depart toward Dover. Garbo's reports grow more urgent, and the ghost army keeps inflating, hammering, and acting. By the time Hitler finally realizes his mistake, the Allies are already breaking through the Norman hedgerows. The ghosts had done their job. Back in Kent, Private Leventhal listens to the static and finally allows himself a quiet smile. He doesn't know what's happening in France. He doesn't need to. All he knows is that the radio's still alive, and so are his brothers. The deception has bought them time, and in war, time is blood. June 6th, 1944. Morning. The beaches of Normandy are burning. Waves crash against landing craft as soldiers wade through smoke and gunfire. The air reeks of cordite and salt. Bullets snap overhead. Tracers slicing through the mist. Men scream for medics, for God, for their mothers. It's chaos pure and absolute. But 150 miles away, in a quiet English field outside Canterbury, you can hear birdsong. The men of Operation Fortitude sit in their tents, radios humming, surrounded by inflated tanks that glisten with dew. Private Robbins lights a cigarette with trembling hands. He hasn't slept in days. Neither have the others. They know what's happening across the channel, but they also know they can't move, can't help, can't break character. Their weapon is silence. Their battlefield is imagination. They've spent months building an army that doesn't exist. Now, as real men fight and die in Normandy, their ghost army has to keep fighting the lie. The morning dispatches from Bletchley Park arrive by motorcycle courier. Decrypted German orders. Time. Stamped and precise. Colonel Reeder reads them aloud. OKW believes Normandy is a diversionary landing. Primary assault. Still expected. At Pas de Calais. He lets out a low whistle. They've swallowed it whole. For now, Hitler's elite divisions, the 1st SS Panzer Corps, the 12th SS Hitlerjugend, and the 15th Army, remain idle near Calais. They could have rolled south, crushed the Allied beachhead, and driven the invaders back into the sea. But they don't, because the ghosts won't let them. In Berlin, Adolf Hitler is pacing his map room. His eyes dart across a wall-sized chart of Western Europe. Normandy burns red with battle markers. Calais, however, Calais is circled again and again in thick black pencil. He refuses to believe what's right in front of him. The Allies, he insists, are tricking him. This is a diversion. He snaps at Field Marshal Keitel. The main blow will come at Calais. Even as the beaches at Omaha and Utah run red, Hitler's armies wait for the phantom army of Patton to arrive. In occupied France, Luftwaffe reconnaissance planes continue photographing the English coast. The pictures they bring back only confirm the delusion convoys. Landing craft, supply dumps, all fake, all carefully staged by Fortitude. At Abwehr headquarters, German analysts study the images and nod approvingly. Everything matches Garbo's reports. Everything is consistent. The illusion is complete. Meanwhile, back in England, the ghost army works around the clock. The men are exhausted, their nerves stretched thin. But they keep the radios alive, the decoys inflated, the chatter constant. One of them, Lieutenant Cliff Smith, jokes bitterly as he cranks the air pump for another rubber tank. If Hitler ever finds out what we're doing, he says, I hope he appreciates the art. Nearby, sound engineers cue up new recordings. Tonight, they'll broadcast more vehicle noises through the night to suggest troop movements toward Dover. Every sound is designed to be overheard. To the Germans, it sounds like invasion preparations. To the men of Fortitude, it sounds like salvation. At Bletchley Park, the intercepts keep coming in. German High Command orders Panzer reserves to remain in Calais region. Reinforcements withheld pending second Allied landing. The codebreakers know what that means. The lie is working. Every hour that the German tanks sit still means more Allied soldiers reaching shore, more bridges secured, more momentum gained. As dusk settles over Normandy, the beaches are littered with the wreckage of war tanks burning, ships sinking, bodies floating in the surf. But the line holds. The beachhead is secure. At Supreme Headquarters in England, General Dwight D. Eisenhower receives word from his staff. Enemy forces in Calais remain inactive. He exhales, removes his cap, and says quietly, "Then God bless the deceivers." Back in Kent, a jeep pulls up to the Ghost Army's command tent. A major steps out, mud splattered to his knees, and hands Colonel Reeder a sealed envelope. Inside, new orders. Maintain deception for 14 more days. Patton's army must remain active. Reeder nods. So the war goes on, he mutters. That night, as the real war rages across France, the ghosts of fortitude breathe again. Men hammer decoy tracks into the dirt. Radio operators send more false reports of movements toward Dover. And Garbo transmits another masterpiece of misinformation. Our sources confirm second wave of invasion forces preparing to strike Calais. Allies confident. Initial Normandy diversion succeeded. In Berlin, that message seals the delusion. The 15th Army, nearly 20 divisions strong, remains pinned near Calais for 7 weeks. 7 weeks that give the Allies time to expand, regroup, and break through the bocage of Normandy. The lie had become one of the most valuable weapons of the entire war. In the fields of Kent, the men of the Ghost Army finally allow themselves a moment of reflection. Private Robbins stares at the inflated tanks, shimmering under the moonlight, and whispers, "We fought with air, and somehow won. No medals, no parades, no headlines." But their deception had changed the course of history. The guns thunder across France. The Allies advance inland, and the ghosts, silent and unseen, begin to fade from the fields. July 1944. Northern France. The countryside smells of diesel and destruction. Dust rises from the shattered roads as columns of Allied tanks rumble through villages once held by the Wehrmacht. Children wave tattered flags. The dead are buried in shallow graves along the hedgerows. The Battle of Normandy is over. The Allies have broken out of the beaches and are pushing toward Paris. But in the war rooms of Berlin, Adolf Hitler still clings to a ghost. He refuses to release the 15th Army from Calais. For over a month after D-Day, tens of thousands of German soldiers, tanks, and artillery pieces have sat idle, waiting for an invasion that will never come, because the lie still lives. The phantom army of Operation Fortitude, though never real, remains active in Hitler's mind. Garbo continues to feed Berlin updates, carefully curated, perfectly timed. Patton is regrouping, he reports. Supplies are moving toward Dover. Calais remains the Allies' ultimate objective. Each message is a masterstroke. Each word buys another day for the real armies now fighting deep into France. By the time Hitler finally allows the 15th Army to move south, it's too late. The Allies have liberated Paris. The Germans are in retreat. In London, inside the dim corridors of the London Controlling Section, Colonel John Bevan lays a file marked Fortitude onto a stack of completed operations. He rubs his eyes, exhausted but satisfied. The deception had worked better than anyone had dared hope, yet no one outside those rooms will ever know. The men and women of Fortitude are sworn to secrecy. Their work, though invisible, was as vital as any beach landing or bombing raid. But their success must remain classified. The world will celebrate D-Day, but the ghosts will stay silent. Meanwhile, In Kent, England, the inflatable tanks lie deflated in the grass, torn and weathered. Wooden trucks rot in the rain. The fields are empty again. Quiet, ordinary. Private David Robbins returns to the site weeks later. He stands where the rows of fake tanks once lined the horizon. Now there's only wind and silence. He crouches down, brushes mud off a crumpled sign that reads, "First U.S. Army Group." He laughs softly. "Guess that's all we were," he says. "A name and some air." He folds the sign under his arm and walks away. Elsewhere in Europe, the real General George S. Patton commands his tanks across the French countryside with terrifying speed. Ironically, the man who had led a fake army has become the spearhead of a real one. His Third Army punches through German lines, his legend reborn. And yet, even Patton knows the irony. The greatest victory of his career was achieved by an army that never existed. In August, Garbo Juan Pujol Garcia receives an Iron Cross from the Germans for his outstanding intelligence work. He accepts it with calm politeness. The enemy he deceived now decorates him for the same lies that helped destroy them. He also receives, in secret, an MBE from the British government, the only man in history to be honored by both sides of the same war. By autumn, the story of Operation Fortitude fades into classified archives. The soldiers of the Ghost Army return to civilian life: artists, carpenters, sound men, and designers who go home with no recognition, no medals, no parades. Their work remains buried in government vaults, sealed for decades. But history moves on, and as the Allies march toward Germany, the Ghost Army disappears into the mist of legend. 1945. Berlin burns. The Third Reich collapses in flames. Hitler is gone. The war in Europe is over. But even as peace returns, the world still doesn't know how close D-Day came to failure, or how a lie, carefully told, saved the lives of tens of thousands. Years later, historians will unearth the documents, decode the transmissions, and reconstruct the grand illusion. They will realize that Operation Fortitude wasn't just a deception, it was an act of psychological warfare on a scale never before attempted. A war fought not with bombs, but with belief. In 1944, the Allies didn't just invade Europe. They invaded Hitler's mind. And they won. Even in defeat, the ghosts linger. In forgotten fields across southern England, the grass still hides traces of rubber and steel pegs. Old farmers remember the strange summer when an entire army appeared, then vanished. No shots were fired there. No graves were dug. Yet the fate of the war turned on that silent, invisible battlefield. In the end, the men who fought with canvas and radio waves did something extraordinary. They proved that sometimes the most powerful weapon in war isn't a gun. It's a story.